Hi, I'm Angela, a fashion designer and online instructor. And today I want to show you how to take a tank top and transform it. In fact, I'm going to do that the entire season. But first, to get started, let's start with something simple. This is something you can add to a t-shirt or a tank top that you already own, or you can sew it from scratch. A simple lace trim. This could be attached anywhere, the bottom, the top, but if you had a tank top already, I could take this and just hand stitch it in place. But I want to give you a tip for something that looks a little more professional. So here I have a t-shirt, well actually a tank top. It was a t-shirt, I left the sleeves off. Here's the neckline that's raw. I have the binding, which came with the pattern, but it's basically the circumference of the neckline minus 1 inch. I already have it pressed in half, ready to go. But in order to get that lace into the seam, I will line it up very close and pin it in place just inside the seam allowance. The idea is that you want to hide this area here. This is the top of your lace. One more thing I want to point out, there's so many different lace trims right now. If you feel the top of it, whichever side is a little bit rough, has a little rough feel, that's the right side, okay? Or if you can't visually tell which side is the right side. So what you want to do is you just want to pin this around the neckline. I'm not going to sew the entire neckline for you, I'm just going to do a section. And I'm also going to show you what to do and what not to do when you get to the sewing machine. The big thing you want to make sure is when you're pinning this in place that you don't stretch out the neckline. And remember, the lace doesn't stretch, just your fabric does. So that'll give us a little start right here. The other thing before we go to the sewing machine, I just want to show you, if you have a top that's already finished, you could take the same lace and just attach it and hand stitch it or zigzag stitch. So that's another idea too. But let's go to the sewing machine. So the first thing you want to do, it's on a basting stitch. If you don't know what that is, it's a straight stitch at a stitch length about 5.0 or longer. And I'm just stitching right in the center of this lace trim. Notice I'm stitching in little sections, not stretching the fabric and not easing the fabric underneath too much. It's a little tricky, so just try it. I'm holding my finger here and allowing it to stitch together. I'm going to do a little more section, and then I'm going to show you what not to do. Sometimes I think that's more important than knowing what to do, right? Okay, so I'm going to stop about right there. I have a little notch where my center front is. This is what you don't want to do. So watch closely. Do not pull this fabric and stretch. So I'm going to show you both before I attach the binding. So this right here is the section that lays nice and flat. What happened when we stretched it? Look at all of the wrinkles on here. So that's why you don't want to stretch it. So I'm not going to finish that section. I'll be pulling that out anyways. So after you attach that all the way around the neckline, hold it up, make sure you don't have any gapping, and then you have your binding. You'd pin your binding all the way around in place. I'm just going to do another little section for you. So here's the binding. And this time you're going to stitch a little bit further over. You can analyze your seam allowances from the side here. So if I know that this edge of the fabric is right to the edge of the foot, I'm going to go over just a little bit further with this. And you'll attach your entire binding. I usually like to baste it in place first. Now the only difference is with the binding, you are going to stretch a little bit, just a little bit, because you're attaching this just like you would a regular shirt. Let's just see what we have here. So to keep it straight, don't stretch the shirt while you're attaching the lace. Do stretch the binding just a little bit to prevent that gapping. And this is what you end up with. So on the back side, when I'm all finished, I will hold this tank top up, make sure nothing's stretched out. Let me see if I can get this around so you can actually see what you're looking at. Once it looks good, if you have a serger, I would run this through the serger, finish the edge, or you can go to the sewing machine with a straight stitch with stretch thread, and that will accomplish the same thing. That's how easy it is to insert lace into the neckline of your tank top.